Afsal, who works in a pensions office and has lived in Highfields all his life.
I'm born and bred here. I grew up in this area. I know everybody. We've got a good, strong, close-knit community. We've got all the amenities we need here.
What are the kind of amenities you have here as a Muslim then?
As a Muslim, we have all our, like I said, local shops. We have our madrasas where our kids can go and learn Arabic. We've got schools. We've got libraries. We've got everything we need here.
For an outsider coming here and looking around, you might think it's quite strange that, you know, Highfields has got such a Muslim identity.
The bottom line is it works for us, you know. It's our community and this is the identity of the community.
Idag får flyktingar själva välja var de vill bo och det har lett till att alla som kommer till Sverige bor hos landsmän.
حاسة حالي كأني في بلادي مش بغربة أبدا. أنا حاسة حالي إني في العراق أو أي مكان عربي. أنا بحب معلومات كثير.
Socialdemokraterna vill nu att alla kommuner ska tvingas ta emot flyktingar. Och flyktingarna ska inte heller själva kunna välja vilken kommun de ska bo i. De som inte vill bo kvar får sänkt dagersättning. Välkommen Tobias Billström som är migrationsminister och Luciano Astudillo, socialdemokratisk riksdagsman och också talesman i integrationsfrågor.
Just a couple of miles from Highfields is Melton Road in Belgrave, home to Leicester's Hindu community.
But is it also a close-knit community growing up here?
Very much so.
Its development of separate, some might say segregated communities is an example of the fragmentation that 40 years ago Enoch Powell warned could become dangerous.
Pour rejoindre leur voiture.
I'm in Braunston and it's a white enclave in Leicester and predictably there's no brown faces, no mosques, no temples and it just feels really different from the other parts of the city. Do you know how Braunston has managed to maintain this identity?
I would have described Belgrave as a ghetto. Braunston is the Alamo.
The White Alamo?
The White Alamo, yeah, the defence.
Where different groups of people live separately and socialise separately. When people have the chance to choose who they socialise with and so on, they choose people like themselves.
According to a specially commissioned Dispatches YouGov survey, most British people share this view. 69% think that multiculturalism isn't working, and 45% of settled immigrants agree. But a new separateness is emerging even among immigrant groups whom we have come to regard as long-standing and well-integrated.
It's all about, you know, what our grandfathers did. Those kind of, you know, Bangla moves, not the new Asian fusion style.
Yeah.
So it's something that we felt really good love for. It's something that makes us happy. It's sort of where our roots are from.
We're born in Britain. Neither they nor their parents have any direct experience of living in India. And yet, here they were, carefully reviving the traditions and ancient culture of their subcontinental forefathers.
Have you been to India?
I have, yeah. I've been once when I was 11.
Right. What about you?
Same. I've been about once when I was about 8 years old.
So that's amazing, because you still feel so connected.
Yeah, well, I think deep down I'm just proud. I'm proud to be Indian, proud to be Punjabi. And yeah, I want to show it off, really.
What struck me was that Karan and Hajiv's interest in Bhangra was more than just a fashion statement. It was an outward expression of how they're more committed to their historic culture rather than a British one.
It's very much about our traditions, our cultures. I mean, into little things like the way we cook.
Yeah.
Like, or the way we say. I mean, it's really weird.
Even just language, though, because I noticed a lot of Punjabi words were being spoken.
Through the singing,
yeah.
That is our, you know, that's our way of talking about Punjabi culture. Personally, I found that because I was around a lot of different people, I wanted to know a lot more about my heritage, and that's what made me stronger about it.
The choices they're making on their own terms, and it's based out of a pride in their culture. But the interesting thing is their identity has gone full circle, perhaps generations back to a Punjabi identity that their grandparents had.
A future generation who'd be far more English than their parents were, than even than we were. It's actually gone the opposite way.
Segregationen mellan invandrare och svenskar växer. I många förorter och stadsdelar i Sverige bor det nästan bara människor från andra länder.
Nya siffror från Statistiska centralbyrån visar att segregationen i Sverige ökar. Här i Hovsjö till exempel har nära 9 av 10 utländsk bakgrund. I hela Sverige är den siffran knappt 2 av 10.
I've come to the Joy Christian Centre International in Camden, North London. This church is the spiritual home to some of London's African community. What struck me as I watched Kwame enjoy his more exuberant worship was the presence of cameras and recording equipment everywhere in the church. It seems to me that with modern technology at your disposal, you need never be very far from your native culture, wherever you're actually living. In fact, among digital channels on television, many are broadcasting African church services to different African groups who've settled in Britain. Our specially commissioned survey found that 72% of West African migrants keep in touch with what's going on in their country of birth through the internet and satellite TV. All this technology reinforcing different cultures can be celebrated as a sign of how multicultural Britain has become. But some fear that this particular example of globalized culture is ironically driving people apart rather than pulling them together.
Despite being here and making their lives in the UK, their hearts and minds are back wherever it is, in Lagos or Accra, wherever.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's called finding your roots. You know, that's what most people, that's where their roots are. And technology has made it much more easier, you know, to actually maintain that root, you know, to keep in touch with wherever people have come from. There's no barrier these days.
Yeah, geography is irrelevant.
Geography is irrelevant.
It seems to me that the newcomers to Britain are faced with a country utterly changed from the one that greeted immigrants during the 50s and 60s. The country is fragmenting and segregating, both geographically and in the way people think and define themselves. We have become a community of communities, each with its own. Our survey found that some in Britain are unhappy about this. In our Dispatches YouGov survey, 54% of British people think there are too many languages, cultures and religions in Britain today.
As illegal immigration continues to fuel California's population surge, middle-class families continue to leave the state rather than watch their quality of life decline further. Businesswoman Lana Zweigart decided that placing her son in a crowded high school where many students do not speak English was simply not an option. Rather than pay the high tuition costs of a private school, Zweigart decided it was time to move her family and her company out of California. Her story is the story of middle-class Californians and business owners that have simply had enough of the declining quality of life and no longer have any faith that Sacramento and Washington will act to secure the border and protect American citizens.
I've been in California for 31 years. I have 2 children, and I have progressively felt the decline of where I live, within my business, within my family, within the surroundings of the Inland Empire. I can no longer have a business here, and I'm ready to move out. I'm frustrated. I'm more than frustrated. I'm leaving California, but I have to wonder, how long is it going to be before you have to press 2 or 3 to get to English? Hey, one of the primary reasons that I'm taking my family out of here is because of the public school system. I've had my son who had gone into a local high school for summer school, and he came home fully distressed. We have an older daughter, and we started noticing the problems when she was a junior in high school. She had milk thrown at her because she was a white girl, and they threw it at her, and they would not let her go into the bathroom. She had to walk home because we lived near the high school. She had to walk home because they wouldn't let her into the bathroom. And she was an honor student. Now with our son, who is now going into high school, he would be in that same district. I think one of the main reasons, and primarily it is the ultimate reason of us moving and leaving our leaving our home.
Nevertheless, the audience was taken from a cross-section of society and they all appeared to disagree with you.
That audience was taken from a city which is no longer British. 100,000 Londoners leave London every year because they can no longer stand the wonderful, glorious diversity of multicultural London. That wasn't my country anymore. Why not come down and do it in Thurrock, do it in Stoke, do it in Burnley, do it somewhere where there's still significant numbers of English and British people left, where they haven't been ethnically cleansed from their own country.
But I'm about to meet someone who, to my surprise, describes it as the last bastion of British civilization in Bradford.
Hi.
Richard North is a writer. His son Peter is down from his new home in Scotland.
You go into an Asian shop in certain areas, or an Asian garage, they've got a few Asian, and they look at you like you were a sort of pile of very unpleasant smelling stuff. You don't get a smile, you don't get a welcome, and it's clear you're encroaching on that territory. And there's certain areas in town where whitey is not welcome.
Richard's son Peter has now voted with his feet. He's found a job in Scotland where he feels much more at ease.
There is a sense of national pride in Scotland that they haven't been browbeaten into being ashamed of. You'll see the flag flying proudly. People are proud of their Scottish heritage.
And I think that people think, well, gosh, I mean, this is very weird to be in England and you go for whole tranches of the country, you don't actually hear English spoken. It's not a first language.
The reason we cope with it is by having segregated communities. But as they encroach in and the pressure comes on, then you're going to see a reaction or white flight, and it's a combination of the two.
Both Richard and Peter described Wibsey, where they live, as the sort of the last white bastion in Bradford, the Alamo. And Richard, because of the age he is, perhaps is not going to move anywhere. He's not going to start again. He's here and he'll have to be pushed out if necessary.
But our survey suggests that a large percentage of British people do hold these attitudes. And in part 2, we're also going to hear similar views from the settled immigrants themselves. And then Harbhajan took me by surprise. The very people that were the targets of Powell's attack were now themselves feeling resentful of the latest wave of immigrants.
From the Eastern European countries, the people are coming not to actually contribute to the country, the economy. They are not here to settle. They are here to have the benefits which is already available for the people.
This concern about the wave of immigration was widely felt by the Asian and Afro-Caribbean immigrants. Our Dispatch's YouGov survey found that 58% of settled and second and third generation British immigrants think there is an immigration crisis.
Jag känner mig helt utanför där jag bor nu. Jag bor på Länsmanstorget.
Hisingen här
ja, Hisingen. Jag känner mig väldigt utanför.
Förlåt, nu hörde jag inte vad du sa.
Jag känner mig utanför. Alltså, vi ber nedtittare. För det finns inga svenskar. Ja, att vi hör inte hemma där då.
Ja.
Tittar ner oss för att vi är, ska man säga, svenskar.
Som bor där?
Som
Ni är
bor
minoritet
där.
Vi är minoritet, ja.
Ja, och det känns så här, det var inte länge sedan det var några som flyttade, svenska gamlingar, som var tvungna att flytta för de tyckte det var för mycket.
I left Brixton struck by the irony that Powell's prediction of growing resentment and anger against immigration is now being felt by those who were once the victims of such attitudes. So far in my journey, I've discovered that the resentment and grievance against immigrants is re-emerging among a significant number of people from all classes and races. In our survey, over 80% said there was an immigration crisis.
Days, students at a public high school separated by race.
I specifically looked at research that focused on African Americans. I proposed the idea to run an African American male and female homeroom to the principal, and he was on board with it.